Yo, what is up, fight nerds and dirty gamblers? I am Eric, and this is Eric Bets Fights. Welcome back, y'all. It is time for the very first ever live version of Mixed Martial Smarts, the show where we test your trivial knowledge of the fighters who will be appearing on this weekend's UFC card. Tall and Reckless says, yo, what is up? Yo, right back to you, Tall and Reckless. So yeah, I've been doing this show for, I don't know, a few weeks now, and I usually do it as like a pre-recorded thing where I ask people to just drop their answers in the, in the comments as we go. But we're going to do something a little bit different this time. I don't know if anybody's going to pop in or not. We got 2 people watching. This is one of those things where probably going to have to build an audience for it. But I thought, what the heck? I'm going to do a live version tonight anyway. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the answers from last week's show. And then I've got 6 trivia questions for you that are all related to the fighters that will be appearing on UFC London this weekend, headlined by Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall. Let's go ahead and jump in and go over those answers from last week's card, which was, of course, UFC Long Island, the Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega card. We had 5 questions last week. I'm just going to run through those answers real quick. Question number 1, which UFC Long Island fighter is currently in his second stint with the promotion, having been cut after losing to Chris Camozzi in 2012? That was, of course, Dustin Jacoby. Yeah, he fought in the promotion like 10 years ago. I think he lost twice, got cut, fought in glory for a while, did some other things, and got invited back, and is now on quite a nice run in his second stint with the UFC. Question number 2, between 2013 and 2014, Michelle Watterson was the number 1 ranked fighter in the world in what weight class? That was atom weight, or 105 pounds. Question number 3 was a true or false. Making his debut in May 2014, Li Jingliang was the first Chinese-born fighter to compete in the UFC. Is that true or false? Once again, making his debut in May 2014, Li Jingliang was the first Chinese-born fighter to compete in the UFC. That was false. As far as I could find, I think he was the third. Zhang Tiquan debuted in February 2011, so he was the first. And then the second, who debuted just a couple months before Li Jingliang, is Sai Wang. I actually don't even know who that is, but there may have been others. I think that Li Jingliang was the third, as far as I could find. Question number 4: in addition to her career as a fighter, Miesha Tate has also worked as a vice president for what combat sports promotion? That was One Championship. And finally, number 5, UFC Long Island main event fighter Brian Ortega has been romantically linked with UFC flyweight Tracy Cortez for nearly the last 2 years. Known as Demon Slayer, which current UFC flyweight did Cortez defeat on Dana White's Contender Series in 2019? That was the very frightening Maria Agapova. Daz Files is in the house. Go the Leech, cashed on him. Awesome. Yeah, I got a little too fancy with that one. I ended up betting him by decision because he was at plus 425, and I thought that was a pretty good spot. But he decided to close out the show, so I didn't win that bet. All right, folks, let's go ahead and jump into our questions for UFC London. Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall, and I just realized I was supposed to add this to the stream. Answers to last week's questions. We already did that part, so we can move on to the next slide. Thanks for bearing with me here while I get this all figured out, y'all. I'm still not that great at this live thing. Yeah, before we move into the questions, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to both Eric Bets Fights and Never Hedge Media. And play along by dropping your guesses in the comments. Obviously, for those of you who are live in the chat right now, feel free to throw your guesses in the chat. If you're watching this after the fact, go ahead and probably I'll be, if people are answering the questions correctly in the chat, I will probably be confirming. So it probably won't be that fun to answer in the comments anyway, but feel free. All right, gang. Question number 1 for UFC London. What non-fighter did Paddy Pimblett say he wanted to fight next in a rather odd moment from his post-fight interview after submitting Kazula Vargas? That question again. What non-fighter did Paddy Pimblett say he wanted to fight next in a rather odd moment from his post-fight interview after submitting Kazula Vargas? And I'll be honest with you guys, I listened to this interview today, and I backed it up like 6 times and listened over and over again to try to figure out what the heck Paddy Pimblett was saying, and I had to Google it to figure it out. DFS by the number says Instagram. Grateful Dude says Twitter. I think he did mention Instagram. He may have mentioned Twitter as well. But yeah, he specifically called out Mark Zuckerberg. But I don't blame you at all if you watched the interview and didn't realize that's who he was calling out. Because like I said, I listened to it over and over and over again. And through that thick Scouser accent, I was barely able to figure out I wasn't able to figure out what he was saying until I actually Googled it. It sounded like he was like Max Zucker. I thought he said Max something. He's like Max Zucker, whatever. But anyway, yeah, it was Mark Zuckerberg. Tall and reckless guesses Ben Shapiro. Yeah, that'd be a good fight, I guess. All right, folks, moving on to question number 2 for UFC London. Which UFC London fighter has a fight on their record that has been flagged by Tapology for record padding / severe mismatch? A 2020 bout against Hayden Sheriff, who is winless in 30 total MMA fights. So again, one of the fighters who will be appearing on the UFC London this weekend has a fight on their record that has been flagged by Tapology for record padding / severe mismatch. This fight was a 2020 bout against Hayden Sheriff, who is winless in 30 total MMA fights. That's between amateur and professional. He's fought 30 times. He has won 0 of those times. And we've got somebody came through with the correct answer right off the bat. Das File says Mokaev. It was Muhammad Mokaev. He fought Hayden Sheriff just a couple years ago, a guy who was completely winless. And if you look at Hayden Sheriff's record, there's a number. If you look at his record on Tapology, there's a number of different like warnings on there that are like, hey, this guy has intentionally taken mismatches and has probably thrown fights and this and that. DFS by the numbers also guessed Mokaev. Yeah, you guys nailed it. Good work. All right, moving on to question number 3. Which UFC London fighter claims to have experienced intense growing pains when, shortly after his 16th birthday, he hit a growth spurt in which he grew 9 inches in just 1 year? Crazy. Once again, which UFC London fighter claims to have experienced intense growing pains when, shortly after his 16th birthday, he hit a growth spurt in which he grew 9 inches in just 1 year? I don't know if this was a guess for this one or not. DFS by the numbers says Levitt. Daz Files says JSP. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. In order to grow 9 inches from the time that you're 16, you have to end up pretty tall after that growth spurt, right? So we're looking at a fighter who's pretty freaking tall here. Grew 9 inches in just 1 year. Grateful Dude guesses Gus. That is a fantastic guess. And I believe the fighter who is the correct answer is, I believe, the exact same height as Gus. And DFS by the numbers, Brady nails it. Tom Aspinall. Yeah, he apparently had some, 9 inches in 1 year. That is hard to believe. But yeah, he said he had some pretty severe growing pains. That's wild. All right, moving on to question number 4. Just 2. I think I only put 5 in this week. Sometimes I do 6. Sometimes I do 7. It's kind of what I feel like, but I think I only have 5. All right, question number 4. Paul Craig has repeatedly proven throughout his career that he is a force to be reckoned with on the mat. A full 50% of Craig's pro wins, 8 out of 16, have come via what submission method? Once again, Paul Craig, a full half, 50%, 8 out of 16 of Paul Craig's wins are via the same submission hold or submission move or submission method, whatever you want to call it. Which submission hold has Paul Craig won half of his pro wins with? Daz Files guesses OGs. I'm just kidding. He said that after. Yeah, Daz Files says triangle. DFS by the number says triangle. That is correct. He is the man with the tight triangle choke. He has locked it on numerous times in the UFC and numerous times in his pre-UFC career as well. Y'all think he's going to lock it on Vulcan this weekend? I don't know. I lean toward thinking no, but I hope he does. I like Paul Craig. How can you not enjoy Paul Craig? Paul Craig! All right, gang. Moving on to our 5th and final question of the UFC London version of Mixed Martial Smarts. Curtis Blaydes currently sits in the number 10 spot for career UFC takedowns with 62. With 90 total takedowns, which UFC legend holds the record? Once again, Curtis Blaydes, he's in the number 10 spot for career UFC takedowns. Here's a fun fact. He is the only fighter above 170 pounds to appear in that top 10. So it's a pretty big deal for a heavyweight fighter to be getting this many takedowns. And also, he's only, 31 years old? He could potentially fight in the UFC for another 10 years, So yeah, he's definitely going to climb that total takedown list. But with 90 total takedowns, which UFC legend currently holds the total career takedowns record? I don't see any guesses coming through yet. We could pretend that Daz Files was guessing Brady, but I don't think that was the case. It's one of those things where once you hear it, Grateful Dude says Frankie Edgar. It's not Frankie Edgar. I think he is in the top 10, though. I should have had that list pulled up in front of me, but I don't. But I think he is in the top 10, but it's not Frankie. It is another UFC legend. He's retired. He's been retired for a while. He retired, and then he came back and fought one time, and he picked up a second title belt in that one fight. Tall and Reckless guesses Tank Abbott. I love it. Tank Abbott is definitely in the top 10 for lowest percentage of wins for a fighter that has over 10 UFC fights, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, the fighter with 90 total takedowns, the UFC legend that holds that record is George St. Pierre. Yeah, he currently has the most takedowns in UFC history. Great job, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping in. Thanks to Daz Files. Thanks to Grateful Dude, DFS by the Numbers, Tall and Reckless. I think that's everybody who stopped in tonight. This was fun. I might continue to do. This is one of those things where I'm already stretched kind of thin with all the shows I'm doing each week, and I don't know that I'm always going to have time to squeeze this in as a live show, but I probably will whenever I'm able to. I do have a sixth question. I totally forgot, you guys. I do have a sixth one. All right. I was thinking I only have 5. All right. So question number 6. Believe it or not, Hannah Goldie's last name isn't really Goldie. Is it Goldfarb, Goldschmidt, or Goldwater? Kind of weird to do a multiple choice here, but I went for it. What is Hannah Goldie's real last name? Is it Goldfarb, Goldschmidt, or Goldwater? DFS guesses Goldwater. It is not. So that brings us down to a 50-50. I won't wait for you guys to guess. It's okay. Yeah, her name is Hannah Goldschmidt. Yep, she goes by Hannah Goldie. Her name is actually Hannah Goldschmidt. Now let's find. No, it will surprise me. Maybe that's not the last question. No, it is. It is. All right. So cool. Yeah. Again, thanks so much for stopping in, guys. Please like and subscribe to Never Hedge Media, to MMA Fight Club, and to Erik Betts Fights. If you look on the screen there, I've got the Twitter handles for each of them: Never Hedge, MMA Fight Club 6, Erik Betts Fights. I appreciate you all stopping in and hanging out. Sicky just pulled in. He said Goldschmidt. He nailed it. Daz Files says was cool, fun. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thanks so much to everybody for being here. I'm going to go ahead and duck out. But yeah, I've got more shows coming up this week. I will catch up with you all later. I'm Erik with Erik Betts Fights. Thanks so much for being here. Enjoy the fights this weekend at UFC London, everybody.